videos, kids playing with guns. Nobody thinks about kids listening to thousands, literally thousands of pop songs about heartbreak, rejection, loss. Was I miserable because I listen to pop music? Or do I listen to pop music because I'm miserable? So indeed, here we are across the street from what was the exterior for Championship Vinyl in the 2000 film High Fidelity. Yeah, so where I just was walking down, there was that great crane shot where Rob is walking up to the store and it comes down and you see the signage of the streets and everything. And so, of course, it is not a record store now. It is some kind of corporate nonsense that isn't interesting to us here. There is still some record stores in the area. You can still go to, the Dust Groove, and you can still go over to Sugar Records, and there's a couple others around. So I've been there, but of course, while I'm shopping for records, I had to go to the exterior for one of my favorite films of all time. I mean, I think High Fidelity is the ultimate guys chick flick. That is how I have described it to friends, either the book or the film, or both. If you read the book, you know it doesn't take place in Chicago. In fact, it doesn't even take place in America. It takes place in London, but the book was optioned by a subsidiary of the Disney company. And a couple years into trying to develop the project, they brought in John Cusack and his team because they had a real good experience with him on Grosse Pointe Blank. It's a great little comedy of the same kind of sort. And so Cusack and his team of writers ended up writing, producing, and of course Cusack starred in the flick. And then the director ended up being Stephen Frears, who had worked with Cusack before, and that's really the reason he wanted to do High Fidelity, is just to work with Cusack again. It wasn't like he was a musicologist, and in fact, none of them really were. Cusack is a music fan. I mean, the one time I've met Cusack, we talked about the Replacements and Tom Waits, so there's elements of that in there, but he just knew how to adapt it to Chicago, and he knew the look of the record store, what it would be, because he's like, I went to that record store. He knew the school that Rob would go to, that kind of thing, and he knew his hangouts. Many of them shot here in Chicago as well. The Greenville, for instance, which is, and it's mentioned in the movie, but it was Al Capone's favorite hangout spot, and there's even still a hidden secret exit behind the bar, and the bathroom's still very old school, and the whole place is old school. I mean, you go there, it's like you've stepped into the 30s, and it's really cool. And my favorite memory with the Greenville was I was getting ready to go in, and the person in front of me was like, "Is this the Green Mile?" And the bouncer's like, "No, this is not a movie." And so then she stepped aside, and I walked up, and I was like, "Is this the Shawshank Redemption?" Of course, if you film in Chicago, whether it's the using it for the maze that it is in, Andrew Davis's The Fugitive, or Nolan's Dark Knight, the train system is going to come into play, because Chicago has an L, to quote Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. But Rob breaks the fourth wall, sitting on one, talking to the camera and letting you know that he's kind of a scumbag too. There's a lot of stuff that was actually from the book, shot from the movie, that didn't make the cut, and if you have the DVD or Blu-ray, you can check out some of those deleted scenes. My favorite is when Beverly D'Angelo shows up. You can kind of, in the film, if you pay attention, there's a spot where Rob's on the phone and you can tell he's talking about buying a record collection. And that would lead into the scene with Beverly where she's pissed at her husband, who's run off with his short-skirted secretary, and she just has an amazing collection of her husband's records that she's willing to just give away for nothing. But Rob has morals, even though, some of the other things in the film make you question. It's well regarded, but it didn't do slam bang at awards or anything like that. But I remember at the end of the year, Roger Ebert, the legendary film critic, depending on your definition of legendary, he did give 10 to Midnight 0 stars, so I don't know how I feel about him yet. Rest in peace, Roger. But he would do this interview, and I think it was on Charlie Rose, where he would talk about his personal favorites for the year. And he did say that in his mind, High Fidelity deserved a Best Picture nomination. Thankfully, in the years since, through a lot of us guys who at one point or another had our hearts run over, or we're just jerks, and then we, turn the pain to us, because that's what guys do. High Fidelity has lived on. And Mom, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I promise, you know what? Call me back next week, and I'll have my life figured out then, okay?
HawkSchlock.